Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sebastian, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a hell of a show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and check out the DREAMERSPRO podcast that we have pinned in the comments below if you're not already following it. Let's get into this topic here. This is a topic that I saw that came across my desk yesterday. What I mean by that, I saw it on my homepage on YouTube, but I didn't get a chance to click on it. So this morning I said, let me go ahead and click on it. And essentially it was a clip from Gil's Arena. And they were discussing the difference between great players and generational players, right? And on the thumbnail, they had Stephen Curry, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, and I think they had, was it Luka or LeBron? One of those guys. And I kind of saw them on different aisles, and I said, okay, there's going to be a pretty hot take here. So I clicked on the video to understand what the gentlemen were talking about, and essentially, Gilbert Arenas and these guys were basically given the distinction between a very great player and a generational player. And they were going through the list of players. So they'll say one player, they'll say Shaq, generational. They'll say another guy, not generational. No. So they got to the point where they got to Kobe, and they're like, Kobe, great player, not generational. They got to Stephen Curry, and they were like, great player, not generational. And people were like, what? So they then even went to the audience, meaning their poll, and they were like, well, Gil, your audience seems to disagree with you. And Gil goes, well, what the hell do they know? Right? So seems to be a bit of a controversial position. So what I want to do is I want to play exactly what they said so you can hear their explanation and their reasoning behind the reason they were saying some players are great players and other players are generational players. Take a listen to the panel here.
They need to change it all up. Yeah.
Pat Riley's number one without a megastar.
Top 75.
What we call it, a generational type of talent. It's not like when you talk about when you talk about generational people, he's had three of them. Right, his legacy, you can be the next Pat Riley. Well, hold on, wait, relax. Relax. He's had three generational talents. That's all his championships are under. Magic and Kareem.
Mm-hmm.
Say yep.
James Worthy,
James Worthy wasn't a generational talent, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. North Carolina's fine.
No, what I'm saying is that Magic and Kareem, you had both of them winning championships, and then you went to try to do something else, and it didn't work. Mm. And then you had Dwayne Wade, then you got Shaquille O'Neal, right? You won, and then you got rid of them, and then you got LeBron James, and then you won those, right? So, no, you retired, yeah. But we said you got LeBron James, right? So when you're talking about the generational, those different makers, that's who your championships have been built off of. You never won a championships with teams or wasn't it? So Jimmy is basically the only player that's gotten you
close to it.
But to be real, how many teams have won without generational talent?
Steph is not a generational talent.
Detroit.
Steph Curry's.
Steph is not a generational.
Steph not a generational.
You know what a generational? Wemby is a generational person. That is a generational talent.
Steph became
a great. Generational means you can't mimic it. You can't mimic. You can't mimic
that number one.
Well, you said you can't. Can you mimic Magic Johnson, 6'9" point guard with the vision? No. You can't mimic Shaquille O'Neal's body.
Kareem
you can't mimic fucking LeBron James. Those you can't mimic Wemby. Those are generational.
I agree.
It only comes once every. Right. So there's only 5 or 6.
Kill is based on like physical
traits.
Okay.
Physical traits is generational. Like somebody like Giannis is tweaking. Right, like Jokic is not a generational talent.
No.
He's just a great basketball player.
Yep.
Curry was a great basketball player.
Facts, bro.
You know what I mean? It's different. Like generational is something that's once every 20.
Once every.
Like when it comes, you're like, ah, damn.
Sheesh, you got that?
And then that's it. And he's had 4 of them.
Yeah, facts.
Like Tim Duncan.
Shaq was generational.
Like Tim Duncan was Mr. Fundamental. Fundamental is what took him over the top. He was a great basketball player.
Can we ask the chat?
Freak of nature. How would they know?
Yeah.
Same way they don't know
But Chad know
everything.
everything.
It's called freak of natures. When the freak of nature, like he's had the freak of natures.
So you wouldn't say Steph shooting
Is not a
makes
freak of
it-
nature?
Makes him a freak
It's called
of
a
nature?
hard working.
Absolutely.
Hard
That's
working.
the-
His,
absolutely.
his
That's a
shooting
freak
is
of
freak of nature.
Absolutely.
He is not a freak of nature. Like when we say freak of nature, Bo Jackson, what is he?
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay.
Right? Okay. Deion Sanders. Is Jerry Rice a generational talent?
No.
No.
Generational hands.
Nah.
I mean, Steph played golf.
No.
I mean,
He just became
I mean, he'll play basketball and then go.
Became a Hall of
He'll play basketball and then go win a golf tournament.
That's what I said. Like he just that he's a hard worker. That's the difference between like a Michael Jordan. They're generational. They're just they're engines itself is what makes them there.
Would you say Kobe was a generational
No.
talent?
He wasn't.
Nope.
Hard work.
Hard work.
Well, he was a prophet. I mean,
Did that
like
hard
a
work
prodigy.
turn him
He was
into a
prodigy.
generational talent?
Mike Tyson. You're talking about like those guys like Mike Tyson, Ali. Those are Serena Williams, not Venus Williams.
So you heard what the gentleman had to say. Before I get into my thoughts, I want to read what some of the things that some of the people on their channel, in terms of comments that they left. One person said, calling Curry an average player is wild. Another person said, Gil is full of it. He's all over the place. Too many inconsistencies in his statements. He just loves his own voice. Another person said, if Curry is average, then Gil is a bum. Another person said, generational means someone who is so far above their competition that that we only see that level of dominance once in a generation. Nothing to do with anyone else. You're just being like Tiger. If you can be like Steph, you can be like Tiger. Okay. Steph and Jokic are generational players. I'll read a few more. They said Steph isn't generational. Another person said Arenas wish he was a generational talent. Another person said generational doesn't mean you can't mimic. It means a player defined a certain generation of the game. Another person said Curry damn near changed the whole way the next generation played ball. And another person, let me just read one more comment. Another person says Kobe was effing generational. He was doing it in high school. Forget a replay. So those are what some of the people of their audience had to say. What are my thoughts? I think that it comes down to the definition of generational, because generational also connotates time, right? A generation, an era. It means that a certain period of time must pass before you see another player like this. And in that aspect, then Nikola Jokic is a generational talent, meaning once in a generation, right? Meaning in a generation, how many times, what's the likelihood we're going to see a player like this within that generation? And it's unlikely. So if you look at it from that standpoint, Stephen Curry is generational because there's really only been one player like him. And I think it will take some time before we see another player, right? So you could look at Steph in that way. That's where I'm understanding generation. Kobe, they said Kobe is not generational. And I want to get to why they said that. But if you look at Kobe, you have to look at it, okay, you had Jordan, you had Kobe, right? Who were once in a lifetime players, meaning the likelihood of them appearing often is very, very low. So when you say generational, it means that the likelihood of seeing them is not great. Now, if you're saying Kobe isn't a generational talent, then it means that there should be a Kobe Bryant every 5 years. And the fact is, we haven't had a Kobe since Kobe came to the NBA, right? So you could look at it from that standpoint. The standpoint I think they're talking about is freak of nature athletes. I think that's what they were talking about. So when they say a Victor Wembanyama, they're talking about someone with Victor's attributes, being that tall, can dribble, shoot, defend, block. All of the likelihood of us seeing someone like that again is once in a generation. You look at a Jordan, they're talking about a LeBron, and I think that a lot of what they're saying has to do with a player's physical prowess, their height, their athleticism, the things that they can do. Now, by saying Kobe is not a generational talent, by saying Stephen Curry is not a generational talent, by saying Nikola Jokic is not a generational talent, it also indirectly kind of sends the message that these guys aren't really that good. And the fact of the matter is they are. Stephen Curry is a member of the latest dynasty in the NBA. He is. The dynasty prior to that was the Spurs and the Lakers, right? So Steph is part of a dynasty. I don't see how you can leave him out of that. Kobe was part of a dynasty. Shaq was part of a dynasty. But to their definition, and I'm not going to argue their point in terms of, because I'm getting to the point where it is futile to argue with the basketball player these things. Because one, the basketball player can say, hey, you don't know anything. You don't play basketball. You're not a basketball player. And an NBA fan watching, a viewer could say, yeah, they're right, because they play basketball at a high level and you didn't. So it's a futile argument, and I don't care to get into it and debate. It's pointless. It's pointless because people are just going to default to that position. I just wanted to share it to get a sense of what you guys think. So the question is, do you agree with the gentleman saying Nikola Jokic isn't a generational talent, Kobe isn't a generational talent, Stephen Curry isn't a generational talent? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.